Amazing. What's going on, guys? How are you? This is the conservative speaking. Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys are well. It's pretty windy out here, windy and cold. So I hope you guys are somewhere warm and bundled if you happen to be in that climate. What's going on? Amazing. So, Um, before we go on, obviously we don't have anybody here yet, but um I will make the announcement regardless. If you happen to join here, m- make sure you click the like button and like the show. Also, leave a comment. Well, let me get back. Let me get back to smashing the like button. Yes, if you're coming in and you're tuning into the show, click the like button. If you like the show, even if you don't like the show, you can also click the unlike button. Either way, it is considered engagement and it boots the YouTube algorithm so that we can be so that YouTube will be able to promote this live broadcast. All right. Also, leave a comment as well letting me know about let me know about the show. Um I like, I like feedback. Um and I don't mind it. I don't mind the feedback because the more feedback that I get, the better job that I will be able to provide, when being able to display a show for you, the audience. So just remember, I'm doing this for you guys. I want to make sure that I give the best show that is worth spectating for you people. So, um so that's what I have for today. Again, happy Tuesday. I hope your day is well. Interesting times that we have. Um it has now been official. Um if you happen to see the title above, the title reads, "The China virus really came from here." And this is huge. This is very, 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 this is huge. Huge. Like Donald Trump will say. Huge. Hold on one second, guys. So, obviously, this is key because now this is now the origin of the China virus is not just coming from any YouTuber or any other um, media outlet. This is coming from the government. The government has officially said, and this is officially from the U.S. Department of Energy. They have officially said with low confidence that it is likely that the China virus came from the lab. Breaking news, people. Breaking news. Right. Breaking news for people who didn't know. Significant news for people who really dug into and wanted to know the truth. And for the rest of us, this is nothing new. We knew this for the past 2 years. We knew since 2021 that the China virus came from the lab. No question, no doubt about it. It just so happens that if you happen to say that it came from the lab, you would be on the chopping block to get canceled. And trust me, the cancel czar was out for your neck. It didn't matter if it was YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, they wanted you gone the moment that you said that the virus came from anywhere else other than what was supposed to be the original um area where it came from, and that's that it came from uh the dark world, where it came from, the black market bats that were consumed by humans in China, which no one can find any evidence of. No shred of evidence. Now, this is significant, obviously, because of what I just said. I think there are a lot of people who knew this 2 years ago that said it, got banned, and now the government had no choice but to give the very people that they deem were conspiracy theorists and was spreading disinformation about the China virus coming from the lab. Now they had to give them their just due. And I'm sure these people feel very vindicated to know that they were right all along and they weren't just creating conspiracies. Amazing. Amazing stuff. That just goes to show you that the government is not to be trusted. I mean, if they're able to lie to you about this, what else can they lie to you about? I'm sure there'll be more lies coming out that will come to fruition. But once again, not necessarily surprised, even though the government is saying with low confidence that the China virus came from the lab, they still said that it came from the lab. The only reason why they're just saying that they have low confidence is because they don't have any smoking gun to prove that it came from the lab. But then again, they can't rule out that it didn't. But it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years since the China virus was deemed a pandemic, and in 3 years, they still haven't figured out where it originally came from. Well, based on circumstantial evidence, mainly being that the Chinese refused to cooperate, and the simple fact that it couldn't have came from anywhere else, that they had to draw the conclusion that the China virus came from the lab. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. And the reason why this is again, the reason why this is amazing is now more of this, I mean more of the origin, or more of really of what the virus was, is is very damning, considering the fact that the virus came from the very lab that your tax dollars were responsible for creating. That's right. I said it. Not only was this artificially made, and not only did it leak from the lab, but it was artificially made with your tax dollars. Ooh, do we need to take a step back and say that again? Okay, let's do it. Yes, your US tax dollars was responsible for the very China virus that leaked the lab and caused nearly 8 million deaths worldwide, caused several and caused governments, especially governments in blue states, to shut down businesses and have business owners out of business, having people working under those businesses out of jobs, and and then and then wrecking the economy on top of that when the government decided to pass a 1.9 trillion, with a T, trillion dollar bailout package to bail out blue states for their bad behavior. States like California, which receive $43 billion of your tax dollars. $43 billion that the government that that the state of California has to wipe their butts with, in which they will put it towards things that will be counterproductive for the people living in that state. And it's counterproductive to the US tax dollar, to the US taxpayer, knowing now that the government has to steal more of your money that you worked so hard for. New York City, which was the epicenter um, of the Chinavirus outbreak. Mainly, the outbreak occurred in China, but the vast majority of cases occurred in New York City. It was the epicenter. Oh, people dropping like flies. The media story of the amount of people that died from the China virus, that had to be placed in freezer trucks because they didn't have enough space in the hospital morgues to put them in. Do you remember that? Andrew Cuomo coming in, trying to act cavalier and trying to be stoic, coming in with the gift of gab as if he was actually doing something for New York City and for the state of New York. Well, we all know how his situation ended up. But they wind up receiving $23.5 billion dollars of your tax dollars to reward governors for putting businesses out of business. Amazing. Amazing how we can reward bad behavior. It's just amazing. By the way, the $1.9 trillion bailout package, because they wanted to call it the $1.9 trillion uh, COVID package. It really was a bailout package because it bailed out blue states for putting businesses out of business. And by the way, interview any of those and any businessman or any businesswoman that was put out of business by these states. Ask them if they received one single penny of that bailout money that the government was able to just rip out of their pocket. Ask them, did they receive a dime of that money? Amazing. But yes, the very, very, very virus, by the way, that forced many people a year later to then have to take the China virus vaccine, because part of that package went towards the vaccines, the very vaccines that then the federal government, thanks to the great white dope Joe Biden, were forcing people to take. Initially, he wanted to have enough vaccines for every single American to get vaccinated. Then and the goal was he wanted to get at least half of the people in the country vaccinated. Well, when he didn't reach his mark, that's when Joe Biden started to force people to then take the vaccine. So he was forcing jobs that were actually starting to open up. and allowing businesses to operate, that he was forcing businesses to have to vaccinate their employees, or they had to force them to take the China virus jab if they had about 100 employees or more. Every single person had to get stabbed with the China virus. Because remember, it is your body, your choice only when only when it's for the woman to have the option to kill the unborn child in her womb. That's the only time that my body, my choice is in effect. It's my body, my choice as long as it's granted to the woman to murder the unborn child in her womb. But God forbid if you had to actually put that same rhetoric towards your body. No, because the government feels that they have control over your body when it comes to putting uh, a vaccine that hasn't been proven yet, really hasn't been tested as much, and are forcing people to take the vaccine that actually wind up giving them the China virus more than it did protecting them from the China virus. Amazing. You cannot make this stuff up, but it was true. It was very, very, very true. Meaning that if you wanted to go to a restaurant, if you wanted to attend any events, if you even wanted to step into a government building, you had to show proof that you were vaccinated. You had to get the China virus vaccine even if you didn't want it. And many people got the China virus vaccine against their will. Um, with the employers, the very doctors and nurses that were deemed heroes working during the China virus pandemic were now deemed villains because many of them elected not to take the the experimental vaccine. And because of that, many of them lost their jobs. Wait a minute. These were the people in the forefront. These were the people that were seeing the many people that were affected and died from the China virus. And a year later, they're deemed villains because they didn't want to take the China virus vaccine. To the point where to the point where they were where they were deemed the very people that could pass the deadly China virus. It's the second to the bubonic plague because they didn't want to get vaccinated. Amazing. Amazing stuff. You would have thought 2 years ago that America was Nazi Germany. The fact that you had to show your papers just to attend work, just to attend an event, just to even get business done at a in a government building, to attend anywhere, to attend any building in which there were people working within that building. If you couldn't show your papers, you were excluded from the party, and they had the right to do so. They used the medical exempt as the right to bar you from the very thing that you have the right for as an American. You have the freedom of movement, the freedom to attend any place that you want to attend to, as long as the owners want you there. And now they're saying that if you don't receive the China virus vaccine, that you are excluded from the party. And yet this is the same government that says that there are anti-discrimination, that they are not for discrimination, but yet you're discriminating against people who elect not to take something that really should be more of a personal issue. It's not who is it the government it's not the government's business to know whether or not you've been vaccinated or not. That's your personal choice. If you want to take the vaccine, take it. If you don't want to take the vaccine, you don't have to. But the government was making you do it, and in liberal states like New York City, you had to do it. At the time, as a matter of fact, at the time when Mayor De Blasio was the mayor, he set a rule of the keys to the city rule, where if you wanted to explore and attend any restaurant or any other entertainment venue, that you had to show that you were jabbed with the China virus vaccine. Get it or get out. Talk about discrimination. Amazing. Amazing stuff. But the main reason why this is, and of course, this is prevalent because um people were forced to get the China virus vaccine even though it wasn't their fault that the China virus was leaked in the first place. It's amazing. You talk about a double whammy, but yes, they used the vaccine to make sure that they were able to get compliance from the people. Does that sound American at all? No, but this is what the government will do. The government took away your freedom, at least for about 2 years. They took away your freedom to choose. They took away your freedom to elect to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. And to be honest with you, many people didn't have a choice. All right. Many people are middle class working citizens, meaning that they weren't rich, but they weren't poor, but they weren't rich either. And they had to work because if they didn't work, they would be poor. They would lose everything. So putting the incentive of getting the vaccine or or getting the unemployment line really, really, really resonated with a lot of workers. Many of them were forced to take something that had they had the option to take it, wouldn't take it because they don't believe in putting an experimental vaccine, which by the way gives you a 90% chance of getting the China virus than it would protecting you from the China virus. They knew that. Why would they take it at all? So many doctors and nurses were fired for not taking the China virus vaccine. Now, there were some employers that will give you the option to at least get tested every week um, if they elected not to take the China virus vaccine. But a lot of employers didn't even give that option. It's take it or else. A lot of the employers, a lot of hospital employers had a take it or leave it approach. Take the vaccine or leave your job. Such a cold, cold world. And bad enough that we had racial division thanks to the Democratic Party and the Rhino Republicans that were pushing for it. But then you had more division in the country when you had the vaccinated pitted against the unvaccinated. That was a doozy. I mean, you should have seen the reactions when people who were who stated they were unvaccinated and unmasked would walk into a store that required you to wear a mask. People, the disgust on people's faces. It was amazing to think that we would live in a country where if you chose not to take the vaccine that you would be discriminated against, or that you be looked, or that you be frowned upon against. And then it wasn't until a year later where Trump pointed where and then I'm sorry. Going back to the vaccine, then as far as the vaccine went, um it was then proven that the vaccinations not only were causing most of the China virus infections, meaning that these people wind up getting reinfected, but then but then they would wind up taking an antiviral, which was created by Big Pharma, Paxlovid, and then they will wind up getting the China virus again. This happened to Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the great white dope, a person that will be considered um, one of the vulnerable populations of getting the China virus, or being severely affected from the China virus. So this man was double vaccinated and boosted, wind up getting the China virus. Then he was given Paxlovid, which is supposed to be an antiviral oral agent. And then he wound up getting the China virus again. Amazing stuff to think that the very thing that caused the China virus and had people going in a frenzy didn't come from a black market, which the people in China were consuming bats or infected bats from a black market, but it actually came from a lab that your tax dollars funded. That is amazing. And I'll have proof of that coming up. But the thing that but then the thing is that they pushed this vaccine that didn't work, but they pushed it on the people anyway. Had the people brainwashed, making them think that if they didn't take the vaccine, that they weren't doing their patriotic duty. Well, of course they would think that way because the great white dope Joe Biden said it. That is amazing stuff. And so, along with that, then you also had the forcing of the mask. And the mask was just absurd. Literally absurd. Dr. Fauci, the who was in charge of the whole of the whole mask recommendation, initially said that you shouldn't wear a mask. Then he said wear one mask, then two masks, and then wear a mask all the time, and then put anything on your face as a mask. It was just amazing. This man flip flop left and right, right and left. Um, and so it wasn't until a Trump appointed judge put an end to the mask mandates, and then all of a sudden, and this happened in 20, it's actually happened in 20, I want to say 2020, 2022. Yes. So this happened in 2022 where a Trump appointed judge put an end to the whole mask mandates nonsense. And then eventually you didn't hear about people being forced to be vaccinated anymore. Hmm. I wonder why. Because truth be told, all this stuff is unconstitutional. Can't make someone take something that they have an option not to take. But Joe Biden doesn't believe that he is a public servant. He believes that he is a king, and the very constituents that he is supposed to serve, he looks at them as peasants. Get it or else. Amazing. So now we wind up getting here to this point. Now in 2023, you don't even hear about the China virus anymore. You don't hear about the China virus vaccines anymore. You don't hear about the China virus vaccine mandates. You don't hear people using it against you to for you to want to enter a building, or for you to get any type of documents, or just for you to partake in any activities. You don't hear about the China virus vaccine being held against people anymore. Wow. And the main reason now is that now they believe that the China virus is over. Although it's a virus and it's never over, actually there have been many strands that have been developed from the same China virus. At first they had the Omicron, and then they it was the Omicron, and then there was another strand that came out. I mean, they did everything that they could to try to get people vaccinated. I mean, the pharmaceuticals, I'm sure they were looking at the numbers and they said, "Listen," I'm sure that they were speaking to the government officials and saying, "Listen, we're not meeting our bottom line. All right, you need to jab everybody, stab everybody. Everybody needs to take more than one stab at the vaccine. Everybody needs to be stabbed. Everybody, including children. Everybody needs this because we need to get our money, because we need to meet our bottom line, and we're not meeting it. So everybody was so everybody so eventually this came from big pharma, and then the CDC and the FDA approved having having adults have more than one vaccination. As a matter of fact, they even said that having one vaccination is not enough, that they have to go through the two-step. And I believe that they were actually at a point where they were going to approve getting a booster, even if you as the individual didn't necessarily meet the qualifications of getting the boosters. Getting the booster was really more for the at-risk population, 65 and older. If you're immunocompromised, then of course it would make sense. But you have to speak with with a doctor first before putting yourself through that series. But for a healthy immune, for a healthy people with an intact immune system, why on earth are they why on earth would they need to get double vaccinated and boosted? It made no sense at all. Actually, it did, because in big pharma, it made dollars, and dollars make sense. Exactly. This is a business, and big pharma easily has the government in their pocket. If they want to meet their bottom line, all they need to do is contact the government and say, "Listen, you guys need to mandate this. Make it simple so we can easily get paid by their insurance to stab them as many times as we want to." They even want to stab children that were 6 months and older. Make it make sense. But to make a long story short, eventually all of that went away. All of a sudden, the government believes now that the China virus is over. There's no need to go through the mandates. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden said effective May 6th of this year, all China virus mandates will end, meaning that they're not going to force anyone to take the China virus vaccine anymore. So I guess that includes the China virus. I mean, forcing people to take the China virus vaccine along with the mask. Done. Ended. Over. Commended. So the 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 China virus vaccine mandates will officially commence effective May 6th. Amazing. So the amount of people, so think about what they did. They forced you to take a vaccine that gave you the China virus. They then forced you to put on a mask that didn't work, and they did it all for what? All for what? In the meantime, governments that forced your business to go out of business winds up getting paid by you to do further bad business. Who knows what they'll do with that money? They'll take that money and put it towards more socialistic programs that will continue to put a hamper on the paychecks of the hardworking middle class, which by the way, the middle class is what drives America, not the one percenters. The middle class that drives this economy. And yet they're punishing this very economy by giving them things that are detrimental to their health, to their paychecks, and to their psyche. What a mess. But um but I think the anger really comes more from the fact that the American people were lied to. And if you don't believe me, here is an example of of why the American people were lied to. Now, this is Dr. Fauci at a Senate hearing on May 11th, 2021, when Senator Rand Paul grills him, really probes him with questions that desperately needs answers, especially for the American people that were lied to. Take a look.
On or evolve naturally, but we should want to know. 3 million people have died from this pandemic, and that should cause us to explore all possibilities. Instead, government authorities, self interested in continuing gain of function research, say there's nothing to see here. Gain of function research, as you know, is juicing up naturally occurring animal viruses to infect humans. To arrive at the truth, the U.S. government should admit that the Wuhan Virology Institute was experimenting to enhance the coronavirus's ability to infect humans. Juicing up superviruses is not new. Scientists in the U.S. have long known how to mutate animal viruses to infect humans. For years, Dr. Ralph Barrick, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. This
Wait,
gain of function
let's repeat
research
that
has been
again.
funded to mutate animal viruses to infect humans. For years, Dr. Ralph Barrick, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create super viruses. This gain of
Amazing. So, an American scientist and a Chinese scientist collaborated together to create super viruses. Interesting.
function research has been funded by the NIH. The collaboration between the U.S.
Hope you guys heard that. Um, your tax dollars are paying for super viruses to be created.
and the Wuhan Virology Institute continues. Doctors Barrick and Shi worked together to insert bat virus spike protein into the backbone of the deadly SARS virus.
How about that? So the SARS virus, which was already out, which was an endemic, wiped out a lot of citizens in the continent of Asia. They wind up then taking the virus from a bat that was from a bat infected spike protein, mixed it with the SARS virus, which was deadly in Asia, to create this Chinavirus. Interesting.
And then use this man made supervirus to infect human airway cells. Think about that for a moment. The SARS virus had a 15% mortality. We're fighting a pandemic that has about a 1% mortality. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, to the spike protein, if that were released accidentally? Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they
of
fund Dr.
Virology.
Barrick?
We do not fund
Do you fund
gain.
Dr. Barrick's gain of function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain of function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North.
Oh, I didn't know that the guidelines was to take a deadly virus from Asia and a bat and a bat infected spike protein to then create this super virus that we now know is the China virus. Hmm. Hmm.
Carolina,
You
not
don't think
in
inserting a
China.
bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
You would be in
not.
the minority.
Amazing. I'm s- I'm going to continue to interject. So amazing. So Dr. Fauci doesn't believe that getting bat spike protein infection and then injecting it into the SARS is not considered a gain of function, when clearly it's a gain of function when you create a virus and then you infect someone on purpose to see the effectiveness of the virus. Amazing.
Because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that.
So
they
do you
write
still
about it.
support sending money to the Wuhan Virology Institute?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan
Do you
Virology
support
Institute.
sending money? We did under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was
Amazing. I mean, this guy is so triggered he doesn't even realize that he's lying. That's amazing. Clearly he was funding gain of function, and yet this man is stating that uh he didn't fund the gain of function.
a sub-agency
Right.
and a sub-grant. Do you support that the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China. It would have been irresponsible of us if we did not investigate the bat viruses and the serology to see who might have been
Or
infected
perhaps it would be
in China.
irresponsible to send it to the Chinese government that we may not be able to trust with this knowledge and with this incredibly dangerous viruses. Government scientists like yourself who favor gain-of-function research.
I don't favor gain-of-function
maintain that
research
the
in China.
disease
You are
arose
saying
naturally.
things that are not correct.
Government defenders of gain-of-function, such as yourself, say that COVID-19 mutations were random and not designed by man. But interestingly, the technique that Dr. Barrick developed forces mutations by serial passage through cell culture that the mutations appear to be natural. In fact, Dr. Barrick named the technique the no-see-'em technique because the mutations appear naturally. Nicholas Baker of the New York Magazine said nobody would know if the virus had been fabricated in a laboratory or grown in nature. Government authorities in the U.S., including yourself, unequivocally deny that COVID-19 could have escaped a lab. But even Dr. Shi in Wuhan wasn't so sure. According to Nicholas Baker, Dr. Shi wondered, could this new virus have come from her own laboratory? She checked her records frantically and found no matches. That really took a load off my mind, she said. I had not slept for days. The director of the...
Deshaun, how are you doing, sir? I am doing well. Thank you for tuning into the show. In the I know you're showing up late, so just want to get you caught up. Speaking about uh, where the where the true origin of the China virus came from, and right now reviewing a video of Senator Rand Paul grilling Dr. Fauci about his involvement of funding what we know now as the China virus that wind up escaping from the lab.
gain-of-function research in Wuhan couldn't sleep because she was terrified that it might be in her lab. Dr. Barrick, an advocate of gain-of-function research, admits the main problem that the Institute of Virology has is the outbreak occurred in close proximity. What are the odds? Barrick responded, could you rule out a laboratory escape? The answer in this case is probably not. Will you, in front of this group, categorically say that the COVID-19 could not have occurred through serial passage in a laboratory?
I do not have any accounting of what the Chinese may have done, and I'm fully in favor of any further investigation of what went on in China. However,
Of course you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. But Fauci, your tax Fauci, it was you. You were the one that approved for the for our tax dollars to fund gain of function, where you were taking the SARS, where these scientists, Dr. Barrett and she, were taking the SARS virus, the deadly SARS virus that were wiping people out in Asia, and then taking out infected bat spike proteins from infected bats and putting it together and then creating what was the China virus. The bats from China spiked proteins that came from infected bats from China were mixed in with this very deadly SARS virus, and our tax dollars funded it. Dr. Fauci.
I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute of
But you do
Virology.
support it in the U.S. We have 11 labs doing it, and you have allowed it here. We have a committee to do it, but the committee has granted every exemption. You're fooling with Mother Nature here. You're allowing super viruses to be created with a 15% mortality. It's very dangerous. I think it was a huge mistake to share this with China, and it's a huge mistake to allow this to continue in the United States and
Amazing.
Wuhan or evolve.
That is amazing. Go to show. YouTube seems to be blocking certain content creators, preventing viewers like me getting a notification when one goes live or posts a video. Yeah, that's it's okay. Yeah, that's you know, things like that are probably going to happen. Things like that, I'm sure, are happening. Um, whenever content creators like myself, whenever we put out controversial things that doesn't seem to fit the algorithm that YouTube would like, then they'll do everything that they can to try um to try to depress the truth. But as long as you stay subscribed, any new content that I put out, um, whether it's a video or even message that comes out of my community page, um, you will well you will immediately get it as long as you're subscribed. So that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, it really shouldn't be an issue at all. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I mean, I'm using YouTube just to be able to expose things that I feel uh that should be brought up to the attention of the American people. Um, in the event that they choose to ban me, then I'll just take my content on Rumble, and then you'll be, and then so you can follow me on Rumble. But for the time being, YouTube is the wheel, or it's the vessel that I'm using to put out content that really, really, really should get the attention of the American people, and to put out. I mean, my whole purpose of me doing this is to put out the truth, and trust me, the truth will set you free. That is for sure. Amazing. So, as you guys seen that, whoop. Hold on one second. Okay. So, as you guys seen, um, I hate to tell you guys, but this whole idea about the virus coming from a black market doesn't doesn't look to be that way. But I think a lot of us knew that, at least for the past 2 years. Um, Here's an article that reads into this even more. The U.S. Department of Energy is concluding that COVID-19 may have been leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China, but there are caveats. Hold on. Let's go. Let's do this. Hold on. Take that out. Let's play it again. Okay. So looks like the Chinese aren't cooperating. They're not being transparent. They haven't shared data from the laboratories in Wuhan, which is the center of coronavirus research. Hold on. I don't know what's going on here. Wait. Let's see what's going on. All right. Let's play this one. Sunday, that the Energy Department has concluded with low confidence that the COVID-19 virus emerged from a laboratory in China. The newspaper, citing a classified intelligence report, said the Energy Department's new position adds to the division with the intelligence community on what was behind the pandemic, which first appeared in Wuhan, China in late 2019. Hence the Chinavirus. Here's what to know about the Energy's new conclusion, as reported by the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. New intelligence contributed to conclusion. The Energy Department judgment that a lab mishap was behind the COVID-19 outbreak was based on the new intelligence and further study, according to the journal's reporting. But some who read the undisclosed intelligence called it weak, according to the New York Times, which also reported on the determination. The Energy Department characterizes judgment as made with low confidence. Exactly what comprised basically what they're saying is that they don't have enough evidence to prove that it came from anywhere else besides the lab. I mean, besides the lab. However, um, the idea that it came from a black market, from bats from a black market that were consumed by individuals in China has already been debunked. And because the Chinese refuses to cooperate with its origin, it only leads to the conclusion that it had to come from the lab. The new intelligence isn't yet known, but it was notably gathered by the Energy Department's network of national laboratories, a different intel gathering method than what was likely relied upon by the FBI, both newspapers reported. The Energy Department's conclusion is an update from its previously undecided position. Energy now squares with the FBI. The FBI has previously determined with moderate confidence that a lab leak caused the COVID outbreak, according to the Wall Street Journal. However, four other agencies and the National Intelligence Council believes with low confidence that the pandemic was sparked by a national transmission involving an infected animal. Two other agencies, one of which was identified as the CIA, still hasn't drawn a conclusion. There's an agreement across the government that the virus wasn't the product of a biological weapons program in China, a conspiracy theory that has sometimes been conflated with concerns about a lab leak. The classified intelligence report cited by the Wall Street Journal was reportedly provided to by some congressional lawmakers and the White House. The position change is noted in a recent update in 2021 documented by the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, per the journal. White House still says no definitive answer. White House National Secretary Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday responded to the Wall Street Journal report saying the intelligence community hasn't come up with a definitive answer on the question. But just because they don't have a definitive answer on the question doesn't necessarily mean that that is not a concise conclusion. I mean, you can only work with whatever you have. And since since the since the dark market of bats being consumed by humans was debunked, where else could the virus have came from? Where else could the virus have originated from? And this is the reason why the government is taking a safe approach in stating that the virus could have came from the lab, and not definitively saying that it came from the lab, because if they did, it would be really bad for Fauci, considering the fact that Dr. Fauci lied during a Senate hearing stating that he did not fund US tax dollars to support gain of function, which he clearly did. There are a variety of views in the intelligence community. Some elements of the intelligence community has reached conclusions on one side, some on the other. A number of them have said that they just don't have enough information to be sure, Sullivan said. Here's what I can tell you. President Biden has directed repeatedly every element of our intelligence community to put effort and resources behind getting to the bottom of the question. But right now there is not a definitive answer that has emerged from the intelligence community on the question. It's amazing stuff. So obviously, I want to know what do you guys think? Um, you know, do you guys truly believe that the virus came from the lab? I mean, or do you or do you believe the original story of how the the virus was originally leaked? I mean, it clearly makes sense that it would come from the lab, considering the fact that you already had scientists that were already creating super viruses and testing them out. Why wouldn't it come from the lab? They were already creating the China virus in the lab. The China virus was born in the lab. Amazing stuff. But I would definitely like to know what you guys what you guys think. So I have a couple call of actions. So if you want to join the show, I'll leave the link at the bottom, and then you can join the show, and and then I can and then we can be able to discuss the matter. Or if not, then I will continue on with the monologue. It all really depends on how many people would like to participate. But yes, I mean I would like to know what do you guys think of the origin of the virus? And obviously, Dr. Fauci had something. I mean, Dr. Fauci was responsible for this. This man should be in jail, but he is protected by the powers that may be, being your public servants, and because of that, this man is allowed to retire, even though he was responsible for almost 8 million people dying from the China virus and trillion billions upon billions of dollars lost by businessmen and businesswomen who were forced to shut down their business and close up shop be, due to the government forcing everyone to stay indoors, while the very people that are forcing you to stay indoors were the ones that were heading out and violating their own China virus protocols. Because remember, the China virus only affects the peasants. You know, the very people that are supposed to be the ones that the government officials are supposed to serve. All right? The constituents are considered the peasants, and the public servants are considered the kings. And it's only the kings who are also considered the elites. They're the only ones that are immune from the China virus. The rest of us peasants who are really constituents, we're the ones that have to we're the ones that were forced to have to stay inside because the China virus was more likely to attack us. Or if you lived in a state or if you lived in states like New Jersey, which had a rule where they said that you can only come out at the bar during the hours of 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then afterwards they couldn't allow any other patrons in the bar because the China virus happens to be around at that time. So they wanted to mitigate the amount of the China virus that was existing around 10 o'clock, around 10 p.m. because the government happens to know when the China virus happens to come around. That's right. Make it make sense to me. Amazing. It's amazing stuff. But yes, what do you guys think? In the meantime, I have a clip of of my old video that I made about almost 2 years ago of how Dr. Fauci originally lied, how he used his position as as a federal as a federal government official. He used his position in the NIH to then send money through a second party that which then send money to to the Wuhan to the Wuhan virology virology virology. Sorry. Anyway, he was the one that was responsible for funding the money and creating the very virus that wreaked havoc across the world and in the country. So I want you guys to take a I want you guys to take a look at the clip. Um, I will drop a link if you want the video in full. I'm only going to play certain experts of the video, but if you're subscribed to my channel, you should be able to access the video under the video category. Right. Anthony Fauci promoting the ouchie, meaning he's promoting COVID-19 vaccines to treat COVID. Well, now it is possible, and I need to say this right now, that it is possible, all right, that he could be responsible for creating the same coronavirus that the government and him are pushing preventative measures to protect us from. Now, I need to say this right now. I need to make a full disclaimer that I am not by any means accusing Dr. Fauci of um, of creating the same coronavirus that has infected millions of people throughout the world and have killed millions of people throughout the world. Not by any means, not even by a long shot am I um, accusing Dr. Fauci of being responsible for creating the coronavirus at all, because I do not want my channel to be demonetized, nor do I want my channel to be deleted. And that was true. At anyone that came out with the statement that the China virus was leaked from the lab, anyone that did not go with the original narrative of the origin of the China virus was getting their platform canceled at all. I mean, the cancel czar was out there, including YouTube. YouTube would be ready to to take your channel down if you did not. I mean, if you went with the narrative that we all knew, but anything that is not considered the narrative that the government wants you to know will be considered disinformation. Because remember, the government at the time was the truth police, and they had to tell you how to think. Amazing. It makes you wonder, did at that time, did we live in America or did we live in China? Because I couldn't have. I mean, it's easy for you to mistake in America for China just based on all of the communist tactics that America were taking on the American people. You couldn't even speak your mind. You couldn't even be honest about about the origins of the virus. You can even come up with alternative therapies. If you said that you could take anything else but the China virus vaccine, you were getting your channel taken. You will be canceled, banned on every single social media platform. Any type of video sharing platform, maybe other than Rumble, will be ready to snatch your platform. Try it. YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. They were the main culprits of wanting to take somebody's channel by speaking the truth. And I didn't want to be one of them at the time. I mean, I just started my YouTube channel right around that time. I believe it probably wasn't even no more than 2 months into the program. I mean, into the debut of my channel where I came out with this video. But yes, something like this, the moment that you would have made that claim that the virus came from anywhere else, I mean that the virus came from the lab as opposed to coming from a dark market bat that was consumed, they would cancel you in a heartbeat. Amazing stuff. So I'm telling you guys this right now. All right, this is straight from the horse's mouth. I am not by any means accusing Dr. Fauci of creating the world's pandemic related to the coronavirus. Not at all. But at the same time, I mean, do we know for a fact that he was responsible for it? I don't know. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. It's not possible. We don't know. What we do know is that um, that U.S. tax-paying dollars were used to research and alter different coronaviruses in the Wuhan lab. That we do know. That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. So, Dr. Fauci used our tax dollars to do so. And I will specifically show you how he did it and how much he actually put in. Give me 1 second. Grants awarded by the NIH to the EcoHealth Alliance understanding the risk of bat coronavirus emergence amounted to $666,422 to investigate the ecology, evolutionary biology, and transmission dynamics of bat coronaviruses at the human wildlife interface. Basically, 666,422 of our hard-earned U.S. taxpaying dollars went towards this. One of the grants awarded by I'm sorry. So one of the grants that Dr. Fauci was able to reward to Eco Health Alliance, one of them amounted up to $666,422. Now you may think that money is a drop in the bucket, but again, I want you guys to keep in mind that this grant, among other grants, were the grants that were responsible for creating a super virus that caused almost 8 million deaths worldwide and trillions of dollars lost by businessmen and businesswomen, along with many jobs that were lost due to people unwilling to take a experimental Chinavirus vaccine. And all of this was done with your tax dollars that it was um even though even though the amount was minute, even though the amount was on a micro level, the amount of damage that it caused in America and throughout the world was on a much more macro level. Here is more of an example of the amount of money that your tax dollars that caused the China virus created. Virus grant provided the EcoHealth Alliance with a total of 3.1 million, including 599,000 that the Wuhan Institute of Virology used in part to identify and alter bat coronaviruses likely to infect humans, according to The Intercept. The grant was initially awarded
for 5 years from 2014 until 2019.
Right, and it happened around that time until the Trump administration suspended it in April of 2020. To be quite honest with you, should have been suspended even earlier. But the great white hope, Donald Trump, at least was able to put a stop to it.
Dr. E. Bright, a molecular biologist at Rutgers University, wrote, "The materials confirmed the grants supported the construction in Wuhan of novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses that combine the spike gene from one coronavirus with genetic information from another coronavirus and confirmed the results viruses could infect humans. When you alter a genotype and the resulting phenotype to have a different functioning phenotype, that is considered a gain of function." This is
Let's go. Sorry about that. Let's repeat that last message again.
wrote, "The materials confirmed the grants supported the construction in Wuhan of novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses that combine the spike gene from one coronavirus with genetic information from another coronavirus and confirmed the results viruses could infect humans. When you alter a genotype and the resulting phenotype to have a different functioning phenotype, that is considered a gain of function."
Yeah, basically, it's saying the same thing that they mentioned before. Um, when you put two viruses together that are then able to be intact, and then you use it to infect another human to check the effectiveness of the virus, that is considered a gain of function, and that's what our tax dollars were paying for. But Dr. Fauci doesn't want to take responsibility for it, because taking responsibility for it could mean a death sentence for Fauci, because Fauci will be going to jail, mainly because he lied in front of a Senate hearing and stated that he did not participate in gain of function when he specifically did. But again, this is the very thing that these people sorry has been they have been able to get away with for a long time. And it's a shame it's a shame that you can be a government official and basically get away with murder. um I can tell people right now, I guess if you wanted to get away with murder, all you had to do is become a government official, because you can basically be responsible for um hundreds upon thousands, or even millions of deaths, and yet you can come up with an excuse and all is absolved, because you are a government official who follows under people that are willing to protect you, and they're willing to protect your immunity while making yours weaker. I find it funny that, as a doctor, this man never ever at one time brought up um natural immunity. Never ever brought it up at all during the pandemic. And this man is a doctor. I mean, it's common sense. You don't really even need to be a doctor to know that if you have a well intact immune system, if you happen to come across the virus, your immune system will develop antibodies to protect you from the virus, if you have to come through it again. Now, worst case, you probably will suffer little to no symptoms at all. But in the end, it can't be any worse than receiving a synthetic vaccination that can not only give you the China virus, but the side effects of it actually outweighs the benefits of taking it in the first place, considering the fact that with a well intact immune system, your immune system can do the very things that this vaccine is supposed to do. Also, keep in mind that you had to go through a two-step. I mean, this thing is supposed to be the flu. right? This thing was supposed to be considered the flu, and yet you had to go through a two step in getting the vaccine. And normally, if you have to take the second step, it's the second step that winds up giving you the effects that you would get if you actually had to go through the China virus. So you're basically taking a vaccine that was making you sick and could give you long lingering um um medical, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? It could also give you long lingering um uh medical interactions that will be counterproductive to your life. And and really, what was what was the point of it? What was the point of actually taking a vaccine that can wind up, I mean, that can not only make you sick, giving you the very effects that you would have if you had the China virus, but it would also give you um adverse medical effects. Adverse, I'm sorry, not adverse medical effects. Sorry about that, people. Adverse side effects from the vaccine. So the purpose of taking it, it's really a double whammy for the very people that were forced to take the vaccination. And shame on the government for having to force people to take it. Mr. Sean, either a government official or someone categorized as someone who has a victimhood mentality. Absolutely. Somebody that couldn't think for themselves. Absolutely. And Deshaun, I don't know if you happen to experience this, but during during the China virus, the reaction that I don't know if you experienced it, but the reaction that you would see if you were to come in at that time without a mask on, or if you were to tell them that you weren't vaccinated, I mean, the very looks that you would get, they almost wanted to treat you as if you were un-American. um I remember watching the news at the time, and there were people fighting in the store. There were people that were getting into physical altercations all over the dispute of mask wearing, which really is nobody's business. I mean, businesses felt that they need to um, enforce the rule, although a lot of those businesses were just cowards. Because honestly, who would watch you? I mean, who will watch your business 24/7 unless a customer wanted to decided to want to go to um a local or a state official, and then complain that the business was being non-compliant in enforcing the uh the China virus draconian rules, and forced to have that business shut down, either by sanctioning multiple fines or just shutting the business down altogether. But the divisiveness that you've seen among Americans was um it was just implausible. It was incredible. We lived through an incredible time. And it also just reminds you that if a pandemic were like this were to hit again, that this is what the government will do in order to get compliance. And people that were weak, people that were considered the sheep, these were the type of people that would wind up just going along with whatever the government tells you. If the government said jump, they would say how high. Sean says, I'm in Cali. Officials have placed a mandate on masks. And yes, I did see the looks and reaction when when one was caught without it. Oh my goodness. California. Woo! California. Yes. California was California is a very interesting state. Not really an interesting state. It's a state that's so far gone. And California with the mask mandates, it was just incredible. It was utterly ridiculous. It made you not even want to live in California. What in the world? I heard that if you had a business in California at the time that the Chinavirus was in, that you had to have your business outside. I mean that the patrons had to be outside. They couldn't dine inside, and if they were inside, they had to wear the mask. But then if they were outside, they still had to wear the mask. California is a whole mess, and not to mention California is a welfare state. It's a shame that the very officials that live there, I mean, the very officials that officiate there, it's a shame how far they were able to destroy that country. I mean, sorry, to destroy that state. Which just showing. I'm sorry to say this, but California really needs to be annexed from America because um, that state is so far gone with politicians who really do not have the people's interest in hand, but their own interest in hand because they are rewarded by the elitists who 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 they want to reward with with the very I mean with honoring their very interest. And it's unfortunate because in the end it's the people in California who suffered there. I I mean, obviously, California is not a place to do business in, nor is it a place to live. There's no such thing as the middle class, and the middle class is what drives um, America. There's no middle class in California, none at all. It is really a state of the have and have-nots. Amazing. Yeah, it's tough living here in California because not because of the cost of living and how leaders and people change the culture. Absolutely. I mean, the cost of living is high. Um, the level of crime is high. The level of homelessness is high. I mean, California, when it was regulated right, mainly by Republicans, it used to be um, the California dream. And now it's a nightmare because businesses that once existed in California are leaving out in droves to go to places where it's actually worth doing business in because you don't have to worry about the government stealing a vast majority of the money that you earned or that you were able to earn by rolling the dice and betting it all. Well, if you roll the dice and bet it all you're gonna do is bet on the government to take all of your money in the state of California. What a mess. What a mess. I feel bad for you, Deshaun. I feel bad for you. You know, I know you're still hanging in there because of the weather. I'm sure the weather there is amazing, but yeah, it's a tough place to be. Um, but what are you going to do? Amazing. I mean, California really is in a fallen state. If I didn't know any better, I would think that the people in California did not believe in God. As a matter of fact, if I didn't know any better, I would think that that God doesn't exist in California. US won't allow Cali to be separated. Cali gives the most money of all states via taxes and businesses. Right. And this is the reason why the government was so eager to want to bail out California during the $1.9 trillion bailout package. California received $42 billion, 40 a little over $42 billion of bailout money. So California was rewarded for putting businesses out of business and putting people out of work, and they get $42 billion. Ask any of those businesses that were out of business thanks to the executive order of Gavin Newsom, if any of those businesses received a dime of that bailout package. So those people wind up getting a double whammy. Not only were their businesses closed, but their tax dollars are now paying to bail out Gavin Newsom, that was responsible for putting the people who own businesses in California out of business. Amazing. It's all good. It's tough, but folks like me manage. Yeah, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. I mean, obviously the best option would be for you to move, but I mean that's easier said than done. I mean, I know there are people who had no choice; they had to do it, but in the end, the government, the only really, let's be honest, the only job that the government really should have among the people is to make sure that our constitutional rights are not infringed upon, and leave our taxes and leave our money alone. Stop stealing our money. Anytime you hear of a tax, just think of it as theft. Taxes equal theft. All right. The government wouldn't even be as big as it is if it wasn't for our taxes. All right. These nice government buildings, these government workers who who in which many of them were able to receive the position through affirmative action. And you can tell based on their attitude and based on their work ethic, because they're getting an overinflated pay for a little amount of work that they're responsible for. And now they think because they're getting paid more than what they're willing to put an effort to do, that they can just do whatever they want. Amazing. It is amazing. And again, it's a shame that people will have to live through that. But I mean, think about it. The only reason why we even have a government is because we the people came together and said, yes, we need a government to take care of the minimal things that we need. All right, such as providing roads, stoplights, stop signs. We didn't expect the government to take over our lives whenever they wanted to. Now they're taking your money and they're giving it to undeserving people. You want to know why that there's a homeless issue? I mean, you want to know why that there's a big homeless problem, not just in California. I don't want to just speak about California, although California is the pits. You want to know why that there's a huge homeless population in California, Seattle, Washington, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, um, New York City, and above? Because because of your taxes. It's because of your taxes. Your taxes are paying for it. All right. Your tax dollars are paying for homeless for those tents that I mean that you see I mean that you see I mean that you see lined up and that you see lined up in the on the sidewalk, that they chose to make a makeshift homeless haven for a bunch of bums that chose to be drug addicts. These people are not homeless because of poor circumstances. These people are homeless by choice because these people choose to be bums. They choose to be losers. They choose to be on drugs and they're being incentivized of doing so. The tents that they live in, your tax dollars are paying for that. Okay? These people are literally getting paid. I mean, the type of food that's being provided, your tax dollars are paying for it. Joe Biden even wanted to fund giving drug addicts crack pipes. He actually put your tax dollars towards providing drug addicts with a crack pipe kit. Can't make this stuff up. Here's the showing again. I don't mind paying taxes for better infrastructures. Just look at the places that have citizens pay little to no taxes. Government can make better choices of allocating funds. Absolutely, they can. What the government really should do, since they're taking your money, is that they should invest it and put it into things that will give you a good return on your investment. Do you think that you're getting a good return on your investment when they're taking your money and they're investing it in drug addicts receiving a crack pipe kit so that they could continue to get high? Do you think that they are putting your good money to use by allowing, I mean, by incentivizing single women that are creating bastard children to to incentivize every single child that she has out of wedlock by giving her $3,000 or $4,000 per child? Do you think your money is being put to good use? Absolutely not, because you know that that bastard child is going to grow up resenting the world because he is looking for the love of his father. He's going to find it. He's going to wind up finding it in the streets. He's going to wind up becoming a street thug, and then he's going to wind up engaging in niggerish behavior because he was brought up in the world the wrong way, mainly because the mother was selfish and chose to put her needs before her child's needs. Let's be honest, women who have children out of wedlock, a vast majority of them do not care about their children. They only had them to keep the very father, I mean, to keep the very man who wind up rejecting them around. And when they find out that that doesn't work, then they try to sell their children for cash. Notice how these single women wind up becoming, I mean, they wind up get I mean, they usually get very upset. They usually get very angry around their children, scolding their children for no reason, getting easily frustrated with their children, except when it comes to tax time, because tax time they know they're going to be able to cash in their child for monetary gains. They'll even go a step further and they'll wind up using the children just to get even with the father. And I believe I mentioned that on my last broadcast. But again, the government is incentivizing bad behavior. It's all bad behavior. I don't feel bad for any of these homeless people. If anything, I would use those tax dollars and I would create more jails to put them in. You have to drive the message home because 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 what will be the alternative? They're already using your money and throwing it, I mean, and making people become stagnant in life. People believe that they can get free food off of your hard-earned tax dollars. No. Use that money and start enforcing the law. Listen, get your lazy ass up and get a job. If you choose to live on the streets, that's fine. We'll have a place for you. Maybe that will drive the message home. But politicians would rather not deal with that because as long as it's not out in their front lawn, they can care less. Here's my guy. That I don't like. Government incentivizing the homeless and people not wanting to work. That's where your tax dollars are going. You see, this is the reason why government programs do not work. And maybe this may be your first time hearing it, but you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. Anything that the government touches usually turns to dirt. The only thing that the government really should be responsible for doing is to make sure that our rights are not being infringed upon and give us every single opportunity for us to to um to enjoy and experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and then to incentivize us for doing so by lowering our taxes. Because when your taxes are lowered, guess what increases? Your paycheck. Just saying. Lawmakers and government should enforce tougher laws with longer sentences and higher dollar amounts for bail. And Deshaun, did you hear this? I don't know if it's happening in California, but I know in I believe in a state like Illinois. I want to say Pennsylvania. I'll I'll um I'll look into it, but I believe in the state of Illinois, they're trying. No, in the state of New York, they want to do away with cash bail. Okay. Yeah, that's the easy way to allow your to your city to be ran by thugs. Who let the thugs out? Democratic politicians. That's who. Who let the thugs out? It's amazing how people would rather be politically correct than to protect the rights of every American citizen. Amazing. It's amazing stuff. But yes, that's the world that we live in. That's the country that we live in. All right. For instance, in the $1.9 trillion bailout package, you had um people that were getting $1,400 stimulus checks for the ones that made under 75,000 and 2,800 for a couple that makes 150,000. 1,400 bucks. It's a worth paying. It's a worth getting a $1,400 stimulus check when the cost of gas is up 45%, when the cost of food and the cost of clothes, I mean, when the cost of food and services are, I mean, are outpacing the amount of money that you're earning. What's 1,400 bucks if you have a real job? If you have a real job, what's stopping you from working an additional amount of hours? You can probably get 1,400 bucks. I mean, for instance, let's say you make about $30 an hour. 1,400 bucks, even with taxes, you can probably make that working an additional 12, 14 hours. Maybe 15. I mean, it's simple to get the type of money that you're getting if A, you're willing to work, and B, if you're incentivized to do so. Taxes taxes are never the solution to stimulating the economy. This is what they're not telling you. You see, hardworking people, they understand that because they look at how much they gross and they look at how much they net, and they're looking at it and they're saying, "My God, the government just robbed me of half of my money or even more." So you have to work twice as hard just to make the same amount of money that you could have made if it weren't for the high taxes. And that's what burns people out. Nobody really wants to work beyond their capacity. That's where health problems come in, especially if you have a poor diet and lack of exercise and lack of sleep. That can lead to an early grave. Yeah, it was New York that wanted to do the no cash bill. I knew it. New York. The state of Illinois implemented a bill known to folks as the Purge Law. So yes, these are the states that are literally that are literally allowing um criminal behavior to not be held accountable. All right, keep in mind keep in mind the reason why the crime rate is high is because it's usually the same criminals that commit the same crimes time and time and time and time and time and time and time again, and they know they can do it because because the judges usually give them a slap on the wrist or give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're going right back out. So they either get a less bail or they get no bail, and they go out and they commit the same crime, and they do the same thing until they actually start to commit a crime that the entire community has to suffer through. All right. And their excuse is, well, they weren't violent when they initially came in. But these criminals have a history of being violent. Well, they committed a misdemeanor. That's one misdemeanor too many. You got to drive the message home. All right. Misdemeanors. I mean, honestly, even for misdemeanors, I think we need to get to the point right now where the message needs to be drawn. I mean, the message really needs to be brought home. Unless you are in a position to defend yourself, any violent crime really should be taken very seriously, especially when you do it intentionally. Intentionally. All right. At this point, if you don't know how to handle your emotions, seek therapy. But under no circumstance will you be allowed to go out and commit a violent crime, get arrested, and then be back on the streets 2 hours later because you weren't able to post bail. No. Um, you need to understand that there's a high risk and no rewards for bad behavior. And it comes down to you having to sacrifice something for your bad behavior. If it means that your mother that your mother has to put her house up for bail, I mean, if she's stupid enough to do that for her son, so be it. But you're gonna have to pay. The message has to be driven home. It's amazing how these people do away with the very things that keep the criminals in line, and then they wonder why crime in the city is out of control. They're just scratching their heads. "Huh, why are these people out of control? Why? I mean, we're letting them free." Amazing. Here's my guy again. IRS already made changes to taxes where people who are expecting refunds are expecting a smaller dollar amount. Absolutely. Absolutely. And um and a lot of that is contributed to the amount of money that they will rather spend that doesn't necessarily give you a return on your investment. But the thing is this, when Trump was able to come in and he was able to slash taxes, the very people who were getting a lower tax return, right, or they were getting a lower refund, were getting it because they actually were receiving more money in their paycheck, which that's the way it really should be. Because if you're able to spend more money, then you really shouldn't even be expecting a refund because that's less money that the government is taking out of your taxes. So you actually get to enjoy more of your money. That's the way it should be. And I would have rather expect that than to expect a huge refund. Because to be honest with you, if I'm expecting a huge refund, that means the government really went house on my check. Here is Deshaun again. A lot of crimes were labeled felonies and now are considered misdemeanors. And yeah, and this is just politicians playing um playing identity politics than actually enforcing the law. They're enforcing their party's policies. I mean, could you imagine that 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 you feel that that as a district attorney, a person who was arrested for a violent crime, all right? Let's take Deshaun State, California for instance. In California, you can be arrested for a violent crime, and because the DA already is feels a bias towards people of color, that they are incarcerated at a higher rate, that they feel the need to let them go because they've been unfairly incarcerated. Okay, well, tell that to the very victim that was victimized by their by their criminal act. Oh, that's right. We don't care about that's because they don't care about them. No, it's all about the criminals. That's why all the thugs love Gascon. Amazing. Love that guy. I believe Gascon is in LA. I know that they wind up I believe that they wound up recalling one of the DAs, but it wasn't in California. I believe it was in San Francisco. They wound up recalling him, and then they wound up ousting him. They voted him out. So I guess maybe they have to suffer more blacks and other people just gingerly walking into a store and just gingerly um ransacking the place and walking out with thousands of dollars worth of properties. Maybe they have to suffer millions of dollars worth of items stolen before the people finally come to their senses and start electing people that are going to do their jobs instead of trying to be politically correct. It's a shame because in the end, who suffers? We the people. We suffer. The very people who um the very people that have to live in these areas. We're the ones that wind up suffering. It's crazy because I wound up going into another topic, but I just couldn't help it. But yes, guys, the China virus definitely came from China, and your tax dollars was responsible for that. Um, if you guys could, you can leave them. You can leave a message even after the live stream and let me know what you guys think about that because it's enough to get your blood boiling to know that the government basically tried to take away your rights for something that they created. Everything that the government touches turns to dirt, especially when you're dealing with this administration. Amazing. That is amazing. So here's what we're going to do. Sorry about that. So here's what we're going to do. I don't hold on one second. Let me see. I wanted to do something, but okay, here we are. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. Um, I am going to. So we're already about an hour and 55 minutes in. We're going to take a quick intermediate, and when we come back, I'm going to come back with a new version to my live. To the broadcast, and that's called Beta of the Week. So we'll take a quick intermission, and we'll be back. Stay tuned. All right, guys. I am back. I am back. I am back. So, beta of the week. Actually, should have been beta of last week, but we're going to pretend that last week was this week. So, beta of the week goes to Colin Kaepernick. Now, I made a video of Colin Kaepernick back um about a couple weeks ago during the conservatives' point of view of Black History Month, exposing Colin Kaepernick of being this so-called civil rights activist. The same civil rights activist that chose to throw his entire NFL career away over a thug that who attacked an innocent person sitting in his car that had to be shot down by police, like the animal that he was. This man decided to throw his entire NFL career away over a thug. He then accuses the NFL of purposely keeping him out of the league because due to racism or whatever, they were able to settle for that. And ever since then, Colin Kaepernick has been, I mean, he's really has been trying to get under the NFL's skin for keeping him out of the league. When truth of the matter is, he had an opportunity to actually play for a football team, but then he allowed other entities to come in and ruin that opportunity for him when his older girlfriend, his girlfriend of that's 6 years older than him, decided at the time when he was getting ready to get signed by the Ravens, she called the Ravens owner and Ray Lewis, a man that played a pivotal role in wanting to get Kaepernick signed to the Ravens. Well, she called the owner a slave owner and called Ray Lewis a slave. So, needless to say, when word got out that Colin Kaepernick's older girlfriend referred to the owner and Ray Lewis of that name, that Colin Kaepernick's chances of being signed to the Ravens was all but done. And then he goes on this entire rant about how he wasn't allowed to play in the league, even though he was given an opportunity to play in the league. And every single time Colin Kaepernick would wind up fumbling his opportunity to play. So truth be told, this this confused boy who doesn't even know that he's not black, or who thinks he's black, this confused boy clearly is looking at himself as a victim when he really should be the victor, because he was given every single chance to live the American dream and he's living it. Yet he's blaming and wimping and whining and crying that he is a victim of racism. And yet this man, along with Nike, was able to exploit people believing that he was a victim in exchange for money. And he made a lot of money with Nike. A lot of money. Enough money to where he never even has to play football again. And all he had to do was make himself believe that he was a victim of systemic racism. And it's the systemic racism that's making him a multimillionaire. Give me that opportunity to live through systemic racism. I'll be the happiest person in the world. Although we all know that there's no such thing as systemic racism. And yet Colin Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick has been allowed to exploit Well, Colin Kaepernick has been allowed to call the NFL racist, and he's been able to pocket a lot of money doing so. He has his own Netflix special where he referred to the NFL Combine as as being in a plantation, and yet this man was trying to work out for the very organization that he deemed a plantation. You can't make this stuff up. Well, now Colin Kaepernick has something new in his sleeves. Colin Kaepernick now is accusing his adoptive family racist. The adoptive family who chose to take him in after his mother wanted to abandon him, he's now calling his adopted white family racist. If you don't believe me, take a look for yourself.
His white adoptive parents.
I know my parents love me, but there were still very problematic things that I went through. I think it was important to show that, no, this can happen in your own home, and how we move forward collectively while addressing the racism that is being perpetuated.
What a beta. I don't how I don't know how this man can literally say this and not even break and not even break out of character while saying that. Amazing. So your parents, your biological mother who you were born with out of wedlock gives you up. These parents take you in, give you the the life that gives you the opportunity to succeed, and this is how you treat them. This man is a coward, he's a traitor, and he should have been left where he was. White people, I keep telling you, stop adopting these black babies. Stop doing it. These people are ungrateful.
He took cues from his icon, basketball star Allen Iverson, who he said wore his blackness like a suit of armor. And teenage Kaepernick wanted cornrows to match. He's getting what roles, his mom asked?
Oh, your hair's not professional. Oh, you look like a little thug.
Your mom
Become.
said that to you.
Yeah. And those become spaces where it's like, okay, how do I navigate this situation now? But it also is informed why I have my hair long today.
The grown-up version of Eve wanted to go back in time and give young Colin a lot of hugs. And I was really moved and saddened by the level of kind of self-awareness that he had to develop at a very young age without a lot of guidance.
Fair use, by the way. Fair use, fair use, fair use. Amazing. So, Colin Kaepernick, a man, a man listening. You you guys have to understand this. Um, this is what you call first world problems. What Colin Kaepernick is complaining about is first world problems. Um, this man could have had it really hard. I mean, he was born to unwed parents. His biological mother knew that she wasn't going to be the type of mother that she could be to her son, or at least give her son the type of life that would make him succeed and put him in a position to succeed in life. So she chose to give her child up to to adoptive parents who took him in and treated him as if they were his own. Fed him, um, gave him the book of life, showed him the way that he could succeed, and he's claiming racism because his white mother told him that his cornrows were ghetto, that his cornrows will hold him back from success, and he considers that racist. This is what I mean when I say that blacks deserve less. And I don't even know what to call Kaepernick because Colin Kaepernick is not black. He's a mixed baby. That boy is so confused. He doesn't even know his left from right. First of all, you're a civil rights activist and you chose to get with an older woman. Amazing. And then the older woman clearly is running your life. That's what happens when you deal with older women. Older women is like being with your mother. And then you two wind up having a child out of wedlock. I didn't know that's what civil rights activists do. I love civil rights activists. They love to engage in immorality, but yet want to tell you how righteous they are. Why don't you righteously stop creating bastard children that are going to wind up following your weak, pitiful ways? Amazing. This man doesn't deserve anything. This is a weak, pathetic, pitiful man that has the mindset of a woman. Mainly the woman that he is with, that he chose to procreate a child with out of wedlock. Exactly. My black mother didn't allow me to have braids or dreadlocks growing up. And to be quite honest with you, it's not even manly. But even more importantly, it's not professional. All right? And black and for the ones that actually have cornrows, I want to I want to give you a little tidbit because I truly, truly, truly care about you guys. All right. So all the black men out there that are actually sporting cornrows, all right. I just want to let you know that your cornrows are going to limit you to the type of success that you want. All right. If you're a person in working in the corporate world, you're only going to get but so far. And you think you're moving up. And just because you're moving up doesn't mean that you won't hit that high level. When we're talking about hitting the top tier executive position, those people are clean shaved. You don't see them wearing cornrows. You don't see them with any tattoos. You don't even see them with beards. They're all clean cut because they have to fit the image of the very company that they are representing. They represent the company, not themselves. And a company that's willing to invest six or even seven-figure or a seven-figure salary on an individual has to make sure that the individual has the attitude and the look that matches the company's that matches um the company's mission statement. Sorry about that, guys. You have to meet the company's mission statement. And the image and the mission statement is usually one of responsibility. Well, how responsible do you look when you are adapting a look that is normally reserved for criminals and thugs and gangsters? All right? No good miscreants in society. People that are usually menace to society. People who don't know how to wear their pants at their waistline. People who wear their pants below their waistline to allow, I guess, homosexuals to get aroused to sodomize their behind with their penis. These are not the type of people that advance in life. And Colin Kaepernick is a prime example of that. While Colin Kaepernick may have the finances to live a comfortable life, he will never ever be able to experience the opportunity to play on the biggest stage that he once was able to do in his career, and that is to play in the NFL. Because in the end, you have to play by the rules. And you don't play by the rules, then you'll be the one that's on the sideline. And by the way, the NFL is just as woke as all of the other sports. They actually buy into the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, and yet Colin Kaepernick is not signed to not one single NFL team. How many NFL teams are there? 30, 32? I don't even know. I don't even follow the NFL. I stopped following the NFL in 2020 because they started to become more political. Same thing with the NBA. I stopped following the NBA back in 2019. So, I mean, multiple NFL teams and they all buy into the whole social justice thing, and yet this so-called social justice warrior can't find himself on one NFL team. Gee, I wonder why. But Colin Kaepernick is our beta of the week. Amazing. Um, Thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, put that in there. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate those that were listening. Deshaun, I appreciate you for tuning in to the show, and among and even uh and even if you choose to tune into the show sooner, I'll definitely appreciate that. Just a couple things. If you tune into the show, I mean, if you happen to catch the live stream, like the live stream, share the live stream. Um, also also click the like button, and also keep the message alive. Keep the message alive, and I'll be doing more live streams every week, and 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 wait for specific videos to drop around this week as well. This was amazing. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Uh, if it's nighttime for you, hope you guys have a good night's sleep. If you're somewhere cold, hopefully you're somewhere bundled up. And I will catch you guys on the either on the next live stream or on the next video. So with that being said, this is the conservative, and I'm signing out. Thank you guys so much, and have a blessed day. Amazing.